Her scream echoed across the yard when she discovered her beloved baby goat was missing, stolen by her neighbor for a barbecue that would soon become the most spectacular public humiliation ever live-streamed. Emma couldn't breathe. Panic clawed at her throat as she frantically searched every corner of the small barn. The little white goat with the heart-shaped spot on her forehead was nowhere to be found. No broken fences, no open gates, just an empty space where Daisy should have been happily munching on hay. Emma had raised Daisy from birth, staying up countless nights when the tiny runt struggled to survive. Now she was gone. "I saw that woman next door carrying something white this morning," old Mrs. Palmer called from across the fence. "Had it tucked under her arm like it was nothing. Looked mighty pleased with herself, too." Emma's blood turned to ice. Victoria. Of course it was Victoria, the neighborhood tyrant who'd made Emma's life hell since she moved to the countryside. The woman who complained about Emma's unsightly farm animals at every community meeting. The woman who once cut down Emma's apple tree because it dropped leaves on her pristine lawn. A sickening smell drifted over the tall fence separating their properties. Smoke, meat, barbecue. Emma's stomach lurched. She grabbed the nearest ladder and dragged it to the fence, her hands trembling so badly she could barely climb. Peering over, what she saw made her heart stop. Victoria's backyard had been transformed into an upscale party venue. 20 elegantly dressed guests mingled on the lawn, sipping champagne and laughing. A chef in a ridiculous hat stood by an enormous grill, flipping something that sizzled menacingly. And there, tied to a decorative post like some kind of exotic lawn ornament, was Daisy. The little goat trembled, occasionally letting out a frightened bleat that nobody seemed to notice. "Enjoying the view?" Victoria's cold voice cut through Emma's thoughts. Emma looked down to see her neighbor staring up, a glass of wine in one perfectly manicured hand, designer sunglasses perched on her nose. "Give me back my goat." Emma's voice shook with rage. Victoria laughed, the sound dripping with contempt. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. I found it wandering near the road. I was doing you a favor." "That's impossible. My gates were locked." Emma's knuckles turned white as she gripped the fence. "Details, details." Victoria waved dismissively. "Anyway, you should thank me. We're having a little gathering and your goat makes such a charming conversation piece." Daisy bleated loudly as if recognizing Emma's voice. Victoria glanced at the goat with calculation in her eyes. "You mean—" Emma couldn't finish the sentence as realization hit her. "Don't look so shocked." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Goat is considered a delicacy in many cultures. My guests are very sophisticated." Emma's vision blurred with fury. This wasn't just any animal. This was Daisy, who followed Emma around the farm like a puppy, who had her own special sweater for cold nights, who curled up next to Emma on the porch swing every evening. "She's not food, she's my pet." Emma's voice cracked. "Oh, please." Victoria sipped her wine with exaggerated patience. "It's just a goat." "Just a goat?" Emma wanted to jump the fence, grab Daisy, and maybe smash that wine glass over Victoria's perfectly highlighted head. But causing a scene would only backfire. Victoria would twist everything, make Emma look like the crazy one. She needed a strategy. "You know what, Victoria? Maybe you're right." Emma forced a calm she didn't feel. Victoria's eyebrow arched in surprise. "If this is such a high-class event," Emma continued, pulling out her phone, "I should be honored that Daisy is the star. I bet your followers would love to know all about it." Victoria smirked. "Obviously, I have some very important people watching." That's when Emma noticed the small sign on one of the tables. "Follow my exclusive garden party live stream. Had Victoria's VIP soiree." Perfect. Emma scanned the QR code with her phone, quickly finding Victoria's live stream. Comments scrolled by as Victoria bragged about her farm-to-table experience. Nobody had seen Daisy yet. She was Victoria's grand finale surprise. Emma took a screenshot of Daisy tied up, then opened her social media. Her fingers flew across the screen. Urgent. My neighbor Victoria stole my pet baby goat and is planning to cook her at a live-streamed party. Someone please help stop this. She tagged the local animal protection groups, the police department, and every community page she could find. Within seconds, notifications started flooding in. Emma pocketed her phone, a cold smile forming. Enjoy your party, Victoria. I think it's about to get a lot more interesting. Victoria's smug expression faltered. What are you talking about? Emma stepped down from the ladder. You'll see soon enough. As she walked away, Emma made 2 quick calls. The first to her best friend Megan, who happened to work for animal control. The second to the sheriff's office, where she had proof of the theft from her security cameras. Victoria had no idea what was coming. Emma didn't have to wait long for her plan to ignite. Within minutes, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages poured in from outraged animal lovers, local news reporters, and neighbors who'd always secretly despised Victoria's superiority complex. Give us 5 minutes, Megan texted. Bringing backup. Emma smiled grimly as she watched Victoria's live stream continue from her phone. The comments section had transformed into a battlefield of fury. Is she serious? Animal cruelty? Someone call the police. Stealing a pet goat? What kind of monster? Victoria remained oblivious, still bragging to her guests about the ethically sourced meal they were about to enjoy. Emma needed to keep her distracted until help arrived. She grabbed a pitcher from her kitchen and filled it with the most disgusting concoction she could create on short notice. Lemon juice, vinegar, and just enough sugar to mask the smell. Then she marched boldly through her backyard, around the fence, and straight up Victoria's pristine driveway. Special delivery, Emma called out cheerfully as she approached the gate. Victoria turned, her face instantly hardening. What are you doing here? I thought about what you said, Emma replied with a fake smile. You're right, this is a special occasion, so I brought my famous homemade lemonade. It's quite exclusive. Victoria's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but her need to appear gracious in front of her guests won out. How thoughtful. As Victoria reluctantly opened the gate, Emma spotted her chance. Victoria's phone lay unattended on a nearby table, notifications silently piling up. The live stream was still running, capturing everything. Emma stepped into the yard, pitcher held high. Who wants a refreshing drink? Several guests, already tipsy from champagne, raised their hands. As Emma began pouring, she deliberately angled herself toward Daisy, making sure the goat was clearly visible in the background of Victoria's live stream. Did you know, Emma said loudly, addressing the curious guests, that this recipe is inspired by my pet goat? A woman in an expensive dress tilted her head. Your pet what? My pet goat, Emma repeated, pointing directly at Daisy. The one tied up over there. My security cameras caught your hostess stealing her from my property this morning. The yard fell silent. Every head turned toward Daisy, then toward Victoria, who had frozen mid-conversation. That's ridiculous, Victoria sputtered, rushing over. This animal was wandering. Is that true? A man in a business suit frowned. You stole someone's pet? Victoria's face flushed with anger. It's a farm animal, not a... She has a name, Emma interrupted. It's Daisy. She wears a pink sweater when it's cold. She knows tricks. She sleeps at the foot of my bed. The guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. A woman discreetly set down her wine glass and picked up her purse. You're making a scene, Victoria hissed, grabbing Emma's arm. Emma pulled away. Am I? Or are you the one who stole a beloved pet and planned to serve it for dinner? Victoria's perfectly composed facade began cracking. Get out! Get out of my party right now! Actually, a new voice called from the gate. Nobody's going anywhere just yet. Megan stood there in her animal control uniform, flanked by a sheriff's deputy. Behind them, a small crowd had gathered. neighbors with phones raised, recording everything. "We've received multiple reports of animal theft and potential animal cruelty," the deputy announced, stepping into the yard, "plus evidence of an unpermitted food service event." Victoria's face drained of color as she finally glanced at her phone, seeing the hundreds of notifications and comments flooding her live stream. The perfectly curated event was imploding in real time, broadcast to everyone she was trying to impress. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. "I was just—" "Just what?" Megan asked, already moving toward Daisy. "Planning to cook someone's pet?" The chef, sensing disaster, had quietly removed his hat and was backing away from the grill. Guests were gathering their belongings, eager to escape the unfolding catastrophe. "Do you know who I am?" Victoria's voice rose desperately. "I'm on the town council. I chair 3 charitable committees." The deputy pulled out a notepad, unimpressed. "Ma'am, we have video evidence of you removing this animal from private property, plus health code violations for unauthorized food preparation, and that's before we get into the animal cruelty charges." Victoria's carefully controlled world was crumbling around her. Her guests were leaving in droves, her social media reputation disintegrating with each passing second. Emma moved past everyone and went straight to Daisy, untying her with gentle hands. The little goat trembled against her, letting out a soft, relieved bleat. "It's okay, baby," Emma whispered, lifting her into her arms. "You're safe now. We're going home." Victoria, seeing her prize literally walking away, made one final desperate lunge. "You can't just—" "Actually," the deputy interrupted, "she can, and you're coming with me to answer some questions." As Emma carried Daisy toward the gate, she paused beside Victoria. "You know what your mistake was?" Victoria glared, speechless with rage. Emma leaned in close. "You thought she was just a goat." The aftermath of Victoria's disastrous party spread faster than wildfire. Emma walked through her front door with Daisy safely cradled in her arms, while behind her, Victoria's world continued to implode spectacularly. Megan shot Emma a triumphant grin as the deputy issued Victoria a stack of citations: animal theft, health code violations, unauthorized food service, and potential animal cruelty charges. The live stream, still running and forgotten in the chaos, captured every mortifying second. "This isn't over," Victoria shrieked as the deputy led her toward his car for official questioning. Her perfectly highlighted hair had come undone, mascara smudged beneath wild eyes. "Do you have any idea who my husband is? I'll sue you all." Emma didn't bother responding. She was already back on her property, carrying Daisy straight to the bathroom, where she could examine her for injuries. The little goat seemed physically unharmed but clearly traumatized, trembling against Emma's chest. "It's okay, sweetheart," Emma whispered, gently checking Daisy's legs and body. "You're home now. You're safe." Her phone buzzed incessantly. News of Had Goatgate was spreading beyond their small town, morphing into a viral sensation with each passing minute. Someone had already created a meme of Victoria's stunned face when the deputy arrived, captioned, "When your stolen barbecue plan gets cooked instead." Emma ignored the notifications. All that mattered was that Daisy was home. A soft knock on her door pulled her attention away. Megan stood there smiling. "You should see what's happening out there," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "Half the town has shown up. There's a guy selling Justice for Daisy t-shirts already." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Seriously? People really don't like Victoria," Megan shrugged. "Turns out you weren't the only one she's terrorized over the years." Emma gently set Daisy down in her special indoor pen filled with fresh hay. The goat immediately began munching, stress-eating in a very human way that made Emma smile despite everything. "What happens to her now?" Emma asked, meaning Victoria. Megan's smile turned wicked. "Well, legally speaking, she's facing actual charges. Practically speaking, her social life is completely destroyed. Those fancy guests who ran away, every single one is posting about what happened. She held up her phone to show Emma a social media post from one of Victoria's former guests, a woman in an expensive-looking pantsuit. Horrified to learn I was invited to a party where someone's beloved pet was going to be served for dinner. Some people's cruelty knows no bounds. Emma shook her head in disbelief. And to think she did all this because she thought my little farm ruined her property values. Classic Victoria, Megan snorted, always thinking she's above everyone else. A commotion outside drew their attention to the window. A small crowd had gathered at Emma's fence, holding handmade signs with Daisy's name and pictures. News vans had arrived. The story had officially exploded. You might want to check your messages, Megan said. Channel 4 wants to interview you and Daisy, and apparently some animal sanctuary wants to make Daisy their mascot. Emma blinked, overwhelmed. All this because I posted one photo? All this because you stood up to the neighborhood tyrant when no one else would, Megan corrected. People love an underdog story, or undergoat in this case. Emma looked back at Daisy, who had finished stress eating and was now curled up in her favorite blanket, eyes heavy with exhaustion after her terrifying adventure. She really thought Daisy was just a thing, Emma said quietly, something she could take and use however she wanted. Megan nodded. Some people are like that. They don't see value in anything unless it serves them. Outside, Victoria's perfectly manicured world continued to crumble. Her husband, a prominent businessman, was reportedly furious about the scandal. The charity committee she chaired had already released a statement reevaluating her position. Her carefully constructed social image, the thing she valued above all else, was in flames. 3 days later, Emma sat on her porch swing, Daisy curled beside her, wearing her favorite pink sweater. The media frenzy had mostly died down, but Daisy had become something of a local celebrity. Children left hand-drawn pictures in Emma's mailbox. An anonymous donor had funded a new state-of-the-art security system for the entire farm. Victoria hadn't been seen since her disastrous party. Rumors swirled that she and her husband were taking an extended vacation until things blew over. Her perfect mansion stood empty, the site of her greatest humiliation. Emma stroked Daisy's soft head, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. You know what the funny thing is? She said to the goat, who looked up at her with those innocent eyes. She thought stealing you would hurt me. Instead, it destroyed her. Daisy bleated softly, as if in agreement, and nuzzled closer to Emma's side. Sometimes the smallest creatures teach the biggest lessons. Never underestimate what someone will do to protect what they love, and never, ever mess with a woman and her goat. If you enjoyed this story of justice served, hit the subscribe button right now. Have you ever stood up to a bully who picked on someone smaller than them? Tell us about it in the comments below.